to a game called The Return of Bloody Night.
Return to Bloody Night.
Alright guys, welcome to The Return to Bloody Night.
Hey guys, Super Horror Bro Mike here, and in today's video we are playing The Return to Bloody Night.
That is it!
Walk in the room and I know they all know, and if they don't know, put on a little show. Leave someone close, cold, dead in the snow, ice cool like a brain.
You know what? I don't even know how to start this video, so how about we just zoom in? A little more. A little more. A little more. A little... Ah, fuck! Back up a bit. This game's kinda mid. Yeah, slight warning that I am going to be ripping to this game quite a bit. So if you actually do like this game, you can 1. Just click off and ignore it. I won't hold it against you if you do. Or 2. Just stay and sit a while so I can present my case. But wait! You're probably wondering why it took me so long to get to making this video, right? You were wondering that? Well, it doesn't matter, I need to explain anyways. So I streamed TRTBN about a month ago at the time of writing with my friend Ice. Great guy, you should watch him. And I didn't really have the best experience with it. Oh, hi, Spring Bunny. Wow. Twisted Mind Games. Kozovsky, you can suck my fat nuts! Yeah, I was understandably pissed off by the game due to reasons that I'll explain later. But after that, I started working on TFR Episode 4. It's on my channel, you should watch it too. And, of course, that took me a really long time to make. But you know what? Not all I have is time. So anyways, I wasted enough of your time, let's just begin. TRTBN was worked on by Twisted Mind Games, a small, albeit ironically named, development team that was started a few years back. This game took a long time to develop, over 2 years to be exact. Whether it was the game developer's vision constantly changing, or some infighting behind the scenes, it's up to you to interpret. The lead developer spearheading the game was Kozovsky, and this is his seemingly first complete adventure in game development. Fun fact, I was actually pretty excited for this game up to its release. I didn't keep too many tabs on it, but I would see it on the Game Jolt Best page time and time again. I thought it looked interesting, and that's the best way I can describe this game. Looks interesting. But, once again, I'll touch on that later. Let's just get into the game already. We open the game and, after the warnings, we're greeted with an opening cutscene that shows us the POV of a mascot performer in the background of Fredbear's while we see Spring Bonnie performing on stage just beyond the door. After this going on for a bit, the door shuts and we're on to the title screen. There isn't too much to say about it, just random interior and exterior shots of Fredbear's. After we get into the game, we were greeted with yet another cutscene showing a phone call, or recording, of Henry, Emily, and William Atson conversing. You get these calls each night, and it's basically just exposition hell. You literally can't make out this game's story unless you listen to the phone calls, and I find that just so dumb. Apparently FNAF's indirect storytelling formula is just slowly fading into obscurity, huh? That really interesting way of telling a game's story using environmental and visual clues? Nope! Just spat all of it out in a random phone call segment that plays each night, because that works. I'll elaborate more on these later when we get to the story section. Let's just get into the gameplay.
You're familiar with Billy Mitchell, world video game champion? He could probably do it. So I gotta find a way to harness his power, and I think I found a way.
That's right, we're gonna cheat.
Oh boy, where do I begin? Well, I guess I can start by naming things I like in this game. I think the visuals are great, all the animations are well done. Everything in the eye department looks interesting. Alright, you're probably wondering why I keep emphasizing that. But first, to anyone still watching that likes this game then, hey, look! I just found this cupcake lying in my kitchen. It smells so good. Fetch! Are they gone? Okay, good. This game hurts me. I'll start by explaining the mechanics of each of the characters. Fredbear and Spring Bonnie both have the same mechanic, just shut the door when they appear, or when you hear the weird shadow walking sound effects. except Fredbear's on the left and Spring Bonnie's on the right. Fredbear and Spring Bonnie 2.0 do also have similar mechanics to each other, but have different ways of doing so. Fredbear 2.0 will slowly inch closer and closer to your door. You can tell how close he is by looking in the left hallway and shining your light, or by how loud his voice is. And boy does his voice get annoying.
Alright.
He's here. He is here. Why does he say it twice? That's not scary. That's just annoying.
When he gets to your door, you actually have a bit of time before you need to close it. Next is Spring Bonnie 2.0. He also slowly inches towards your door, but he does it a bit differently. Supposedly it's like a hide and seek mechanic. If he covers his face, that means he's hiding, and if you're not looking at him from time to time, that gives him a chance to seek, or progress the stage further. When he gets close enough, he'll bug it to your door, and you have a really short window of time to close it before he frantically bangs on it like a drunken ex-boyfriend arriving on your doorstep at 2 in the morning. While Spring Bonnie 2.0's mechanic sounds really interesting on the surface, it might as well just be the same as Fredbear's 2.0, since you're not going to be able to have a lot of time to look at him for reasons I'll talk about shortly. There's also an end down the right hallway that just sort of gets up from time to time, but he usually just goes back to normal on his own. The last character is the puppet, and honestly the mechanic is kind of meh. They'll spawn in behind you and slowly creep out of their box until you turn around and flash them, and then they'll go back. Sorry. They make a jingle jangle sound when they spawn, so it's honestly really easy to get them. So, from the sounds of it, this game is pretty simple, right? Right? Yeah, no. For starters, the sound design, which is critical to the gameplay, is extremely inconsistent. The game just piles sound effects on top of sound effects, and the ambience they use is just so overstimulating. And that shadow walk sound effect I mentioned earlier that tells you Fredbear and Spring Bonnie are at the door without having to flash them or check the camera, at times those sounds blended in with the nearly deafening background noise. This killed me so many times. I know the background shit is supposed to immerse you or whatever, but all it made me want to do was kill myself. Now I know what you're thinking. Oh, random. If the sound effect is really hard to hear on top of the background noise, then why don't you just use your flashlight or check the cameras? And let me tell you, I did. And, you know what? I died, because the game doesn't give you enough time to react. The game's difficulty is so extremely stupid, to the point where I ended up just becoming a bitter asshole by the end of my playthrough. The game is so unforgiving, it's actually insane. Oh, did I forget to mention that your doors have an overheat meter? Where, if the doors are shut for too long, they overheat and no longer work? And the sheer number of times the character's attack is completely brain lobotomizing by night 6, to the point where you barely have enough time to keep the damn doors open and cool down, and every movement has to be absolutely frame perfect, or fuck you, I guess? Fuck! This is just extremely poor game design. I want to know whoever the hell thought that this game needed to be this difficult. And this is coming from me! I love a good challenge! I usually pick hard mode in most of the games I play. I like being up against a wall with barely anything left at my disposal until I realize I have that one thing, that one savior that not only saves my ass, but also saves my whole ass run. But this is just stupid. This is the Kaizo Mario FNAF games. If you ever just want to lose your goddamn mind, download this game and play through the entire thing night 1 to 6. I want to see how long it takes before it just completely breaks you. All I'm saying is that it shouldn't have taken me over 3 hours to beat this game. But there's one more thing I haven't mentioned about the gameplay, something that, even if all my grievances with the game are fixed, this would still be a deal breaker. The time it takes to beat each night is randomly generated each attempt. Here's why.
This is for everyone you've killed! England, murderer!
Hold your fire! This man isn't black!
What?
Now, at first, I know this actually sounds kind of interesting. It certainly makes the game feel unique, that's for sure. But the problem with that is, technically speaking, it is completely a roll of the dice whether you beat a night or not. Imagine this. You're playing a video game. Let's just say RE6 because it's funny. And there's a QuickTime event. Now usually there's a set time on that QuickTime event. The set time where you either mash or quickly press a button. Now imagine if every QuickTime event, RE6 of all games, was completely randomized, comes out of completely nowhere, there's absolutely no given time to react, and whatnot. That is basically breaking down RNG into its simplest terms. Now RNG can actually work for a lot of things. Hell, the animatronics movement in all of the OG FNAF games all rely on RNG. and it makes for a fun and interesting gameplay loop where you never really know what's going to happen next. But if you're making things such as a timer RNG, that's when I start raising my eyebrow. Let me use another, perhaps better example of what I mean. Imagine you're playing Mario Party. Let's say Mario Party 8 because it's funny. And instead of getting to pick the number of turns you want to play, the game spins a wheel with the numbers 15 to 60, and whatever the game lands on, that's how long you have to play for. So either your Mario Party game goes on for 30 minutes or 4 hours. This is kind of what playing TRTBN is like. Unless you have the endurance of a man who swallowed an entire container of Viagra in a matter of seconds, you're not going to be able to keep up with the gameplay loop for longer than 8 minutes. So you're stuck in a constant loop of starting a night, dying because you made an accident, the game rerolling and giving you an even more unfair timer than before because the goddess Taiki just wanted to say fuck you in particular, and reminder that it is all completely random. In other words, you winning a night and moving on to the next is completely up to chance. And this has led to so many unfair deaths that it's actually insane. Oh, but random might only be you though. You might just have really bad endurance. First of all, shut the fuck up. Second of all, I beat Jolly's 3's conveyor belt minigames, so don't even at me. And 3, let's just look at Mark's playthrough for reference. Mark beat the game up to night 3 in the first episode. It then took 2 more episodes to beat nights 3 through 5, and a whole episode to beat night 6. This man has been playing FNAF games since the very inception. Hell, he's the one that kickstarted its popularity, yet it took him that long. And just listen to his final say about the game in the final episode.
Much for watching. I know that there are more things in here. I'm not gonna go for them. I don't have the time to do a 2020 mode on this one. And to be perfectly honest, I feel like it would get extremely difficult, because if Saturday is like even halfway to 20, that was already tense and already tight timing there. I can't even imagine what 20 would be. And I'm not gonna try it.
He barely even attempted custom night, but frankly, neither did I. What I'm trying to get at here is you should never randomize a timer in any video game, especially endurance test style games like this. The game was already mind-numbingly difficult on its own. It didn't really need to have randomized nights as well. This mechanic isn't fun. It's just salt in the already gaping, festering bullet wound you put in my skull. Alright, I think I'm done with the gameplay. There's a bunch of secret mini-games you can access by using the keypad on your desk, but I refuse to acknowledge it outside of just using the music for this video. Anyways, let's get on with the story.
Lotion, Kleenex, incognito mode. These are the ingredients to create the perfect night at home. Until Professor Utonium accidentally introduced Cast to Family Room TV.
Alright, this section is going to be really disorganized and messy due to the sheer fact that this game's story is all over the place, and they tried cramming 3 game stories into one, but I will try my damnedest to relay the information to you and explain my qualms with it. So, first off, before each night, the game plays a phone call between Henry Emily and William Afton. Woo! Yeah, this won't end in disappointment at all. I would try to tell you about each phone call word for word and give my opinion of each one, rather than boil down to William venting about his sad, pathetic life to his business partner and Henry not really knowing how to respond. I'm not kidding either. Throughout these phone calls, you learn that William is currently going through a divorce that is having his wife turning his children against him, probably because he's a piece of shit, and having to take his daughter to work to avoid her having trouble at home, him wanting to actively avoid his sons, saying his wife doesn't give a fuck about their family at all, and him saying that his work is more important. And that's just in one phone call. Also, when Evan dies on day 5, obviously, and William and even Henry just don't sound like they give a fuck, despite the fact that Evan dying kickstarts William's motivation in the main timeline. All the while, Henry's just always yelling about safety, 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 and it's honestly some of the most idiotic shit I've had to listen to in a fan game. But, thankfully, they have a skip button so you don't have to listen to it every time you start a night. Not to mention that William and Henry have very robotic and stunted delivery. I had no clue what the voice direction was like for this game, or if there was any deeper voice direction at all, but William and Henry just act like caricatures of themselves. Henry's always happy-go-lucky no matter the conversation at hand, and William's just always dismissive or negative. There's no nuance here. They don't feel like human people, they feel like what AI thinks people talk like. I also have no idea if Kozlowski had any help with writing the dialogue, but the dialogue as well just feels wooden. I feel like maybe you should have had an involved assistant writer to overlook the dialogue and give any help or criticism. I mean, that's what I did for my VHS series, and that honestly improved it for the better. I do want to say, though, that I think Jesse Cossey and Chris Mitchell did a good job with what they were given as Will and Henry respectively. That doesn't excuse bad writing and direction, however. But I'm getting off topic again, let's just continue. There's the CEO, Waffle Brokey, that calls you every night and is our phone guy, but he honestly barely tells you anything about how to deal with the animatronics. I should also say that every now and again Waffle will say something really spooky on this cassette player, and this is never explained. We also learned from Waffle that, supposedly, William killed kids at Freddy's before Fredbear's even open, and Fredbear's has to close down to do investigations. Also, I think that Fredbear's has the missing children haunting the location, but I cannot fucking tell you to save my life. We also have a useless cutscene at the end of each night where we use the PKE reader from Ghostbusters on the animatronics for a minute straight and nothing happens. This doesn't add anything. This really isn't anything at all. It's just for the game to build suspense so they can pull a gotcha in the last game where someone's standing outside. Huh? What's that? You want me to talk about all of the cutscenes? Alright. After you beat Night 5, you're taken to a black screen where William rants about how the animatronics were always evil, they were always meant to be spooky, I never cared about anything, wah wah wah. And I can't honestly give less of a fuck at this point. Look, I know this is an alternate timeline, right? I know people get to branch out a little, but why make an alternate universe if you're not going to do anything interesting with it and just make every character be 2D cardboard cutouts of themselves? There's also the cutscene after Night 6 where we see a black and white stock image that's supposed to be Charlotte as she rants about shit I couldn't care about once again. But then we get to the final cutscene. This cutscene is so dumb. You have William ranting about shit and piss I don't care about and being a fucking scientist apparently with his dumb music and the writing. Oh, the writing. Do you know what they did? Do you know what they did? All they did was just take random snippets from the novel trilogy in FNAF 6 and just stitch them together because these goddamn porpoise writers generally can't be fucked to come up with anything original because this game's writing just spits in the face of subtlety and nuance and realistic characters in the original story that Scott told. This final cutscene also teases a sequel, which I hope no one plays so we can just shrivel into obscurity and perish. Am I done? Can I talk about the visuals now? Okay.
Man! What did he do to make them niggas that mad?
Now, in the visuals department, I have to admit that the game actually does look pretty solid. All the environments are meticulously crafted, the characters are all pretty detailed and well polished, and I feel like everything just has a very musty and old look to it. The 2D artwork also looks amazing as well. A lot of it really feels like it came from the 80s. I should probably talk about every character individually now, huh? I'll start with Spring Bonnie. He feels pretty unique. He's honestly built more like FNAF 1 Bonnie than your typical Spring Bonnie design, but it works for the game. I especially like the weird bowler hat they gave him, and adds to the design pretty well. Next is Fredbear, also pretty standard, not too unique, but still a pretty good design. Fredbear 2.0 is probably the best design in this game for me. I think the crescent moon pattern on his vest really does it for me, as well as the really unique head shape and blackened out eyes. Spring Bonnie 2.0 looks pretty cool and scary. I think the dead white eyes honestly add to the design a lot, and he also has a similar demeanor to Glitch Shot from Help Wanted, which is a nice touch. I feel the puppet's a pretty good runner-up for best design of the game, with the whole Jester aesthetic having a clown hat and ruff around its neck. I think the stretchy limbs is also a pretty cool idea, but I didn't really see it in game enough to fully captivate me. Now, you're probably wondering, Random, why didn't you mention how creepy these designs are? I mean, look at them. And, to that I say, I was never really scared of these characters in-game in the slightest. They try to make them creepy every step of the way, but they're just way too exaggerated in-game to really creep me out. Their jump scares are also extremely goofy and look like there should be a Twitter meme caption of it. I know they were trying to go for a similar vibe to FNAF 1 down to the game pretty much being a remake of FNAF 1, What I think works so well for the first FNAF is the way it displayed the characters. You never see these characters move, not until a jump scare anyway. They're almost like statues. What I also think works for the OG FNAF is the way the characters were posed themselves in the cameras. They are never really exaggerated. They always looked and moved like robots, because that's what they are. Look at the difference between these two frames. Do you see the problem here? That's right. You're making the character way too exaggerated. When I see Spring Bonnie 2.0 run off camera like a little schoolgirl late for class, I'm not really that scared. I'm more thinking about, why didn't they just make the camera glitch out and then play the running footsteps sound effect? What humans will always fear is the unknown. If you make a character run at you at top speeds and fail to fend against them, then we already know what to expect, and that's a jump scare. But it would be 10 times more effective if you just made the camera glitch out after their last stage and then play the running sound effect. Not only does that make a bigger sense of urgency than if they just made the character run off camera and run down the hallway, but the payoff is way more terrifying because we don't know how close they are to the door when we hear the footsteps. All we know is that they are getting closer. Your death is coming nearer. But this has gone on long enough. I think it's time to just get to the conclusion.
It sure is nice driving my 2020 Chevy Silverado.
All in all, The Return to Bloody Nights is an extremely flawed game. Its story is dumb, its gameplay is near impossible, the characters aren't really creepy enough to keep me captivated. It's campy, try-hardy, extremely edgy, and doesn't really have a clear understanding of the story it wants to tell. But hey, the models and environments looked interesting, all the artwork is really accurate to the time period, and I thought the TV being the camera system was cool. I'm running out of nice things to say here. My final rating for The Return to Bloody Nights is a 6 out of 10. Just a reminder that everything I've said here is my opinion, and if you don't agree with me, then that's totally okay. I'm not going to hold it against you or anything, and I really don't feel like arguing with people in the comments, so just be kind and respect other people's opinion. I've been Random Fire, you're watching Disney Channel. Come back next time when I saw my arm off, only for it to magically grow back seconds later. Bye!